Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by SurveyMonkey. Go to try.surveymonkey.com/twist and sign up for a free trial. And MailChimp. Manage lists with up to 2,000 subscribers and send 12,000 emails per month for free with MailChimp.
Charlie Rose or something like that. Hey everybody, today we have a very special program. I've been waiting to have Warren Bennis on the program for a year almost. He is the foremost thought leader on leadership. And leadership is what you need to build a successful startup. And this is going to be one of the most important hours you're ever going to spend listening to the program. So please stick with us.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money and defeat you. Yeah, money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah, we ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money and defeat you.
Hey everybody, it's time for This Week in Startups. And hey, you know, the program is now 200 plus episodes in, 100,000 people downloading it. We've exhausted in some ways the great entrepreneurs to have on the program. And I've been thinking, you know, what are the big topics that we discuss here? And maybe we could meditate on some of those in a deeper fashion. And of course, leadership is at the core of building a startup company, how to be a leader. And nobody ever teaches you how to do that, do they? Well, one of the people I've been reading for a long time and listening to his audiobooks is Warren Bennis. He's been writing for 50 years about. I mean, I don't want to make you feel old, Warren.
Plus or minus 20.
Plus or minus a couple of, only for like 5 decades. And most of the people who watch this program are 2 or 3 decades old. But Warren has been writing about leadership forever. And he's predicted things like top-down leadership, switching to team-based leadership, and fought battles in World War II. I mean, a super interesting guy. And I'm just thrilled that you're here on the program. Thanks for coming, Warren.
Thank you, Jason.
You are a serial author. 30 books.
31, please.
31 books. Almost all centering around leadership.
Mm-hmm. And change, both, but they're related, yeah.
Leadership and change. What is it, you know, after doing it for so many books and so many years, what is the essence of leadership?
It's a beautiful question. And I've been asked it many times, as you can guess.
Yeah.
I think, here it is. And I'd like to explain why. Well, let me give you the preface to that question.
Yeah.
And it's really for my favorite leadership author. He's even were he living today, he'd be. Well, he was born in 1564. His name is William Shakespeare. I think you've heard of him.
Yes, I've heard of him.
But he's not usually known on this week's, you know, leading books in management.
Right.
But his stuff on leadership is incredible. Henry IV, Part 1. No kidding.
Right.
I'm going to start off with that. May sound. I hope I don't lose your audience with this.
No.
Please stay with us because this is a magnificent. This is Henry IV, Part 1. I think Shakespeare is one of his greatest leadership plays because it's about Prince Hal becoming a leader. And his dad didn't think he was kingly enough. So he sent the first executive coach, no kidding, his name is Falstaff,
Right.
to help him along. No kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really odd that he really was. And he was sent by the dad to help Henry, the Prince Hal, become King Henry V.
Right.
King Henry V. So there's a scene from that play where the very pompous Welsh seer says, "I can call the spirits from the vasty deep." And Hotspur, who's kind of a Shakespeare's jokester and prod, says, "Well, so can I. So can anyone. But will they come when you call them? Will they come when you call them?" That is the kind of the context for my quick answer, which is, in essence, leadership is having inspired followers. It's a relationship, period. It's not some set of characteristics. Well, yeah, we can get into those too.
Right.
But what's important about that quote, why I love it, you know, well, so can I. So can anyone, but will they come?
Right.
when
You can call them, but will they show up?
Will they show up?
So that is the litmus test of
It
leadership.
really is. And we're inspired leaders. Inspired followers. That's what
Right.
I'm saying.
Inspired followers are
Yeah.
the critical
That's the
way to
essence.
determine if the person.
And what goes into it are a whole bunch of things. Part of it, even fortune and luck. Part of it. In fact, Napoleon used to interview prospective generals and ask them, do they feel lucky? And he would only appoint as generals those who felt lucky. Now, people who say they feel lucky usually, first crack at it, you've asked this question. People say, oh yeah, I've just been lucky, which is nonsense. And then you dig deeper, and they've created those lucky opportunities. The more I practice, Ben Hogan said, the golfer,
Yeah.
the more I practice, the luckier I get. There it is in a nutshell.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis, the host of This Week in Startups, the award-winning, huge program that everybody is talking about, and I want to tell you today about a product I've been using for 2 years. It's called SurveyMonkey. It is a great way to create surveys. With me is Carolyn, who is the executive, no, what are you? You're a producer.
Just a producer.
Just a producer.
Yeah.
That's all, you're a producer of This Week in Startups. Your job is to, on the show,
Make you look good.
book guests.
Oh yes, book guests.
Do research.
Correct. Pre-interview people.
Pre-interview people, and sometimes I ask you to create surveys, and the tool we use is SurveyMonkey. So I wanted to show people just how easy it was to create a survey. We had done a survey on who do you most want to see on the program, et cetera.
Correct.
But why don't we pull up your screen and have you start building a survey with SurveyMonkey, so you can, everybody in the audience can see exactly how easy this is. So here's your screen.
So this is the main dashboard. You
Got
can
it.
see on the left column here all the surveys we've created in the past.
Beautiful.
To start a new one click, create survey,
Sure.
give it a title,
Okay.
TWiST survey.
TWiST survey, this week in startup survey.
Yeah, we're going to do a demographic survey, let's say.
Oh, very nice.
And we're going to copy an existing survey. You can do that, or you can use one of their expert templates and have it all built and beautiful
So they
for
have
you.
templates of,
They do.
of surveys already. Yep. Okay. So,
We'll copy one of ours.
and this is the design, the look and feel, I guess.
Correct.
Okay, good. We've titled it. Okay, and we're going to continue, I see.
And so since I copied an existing survey, it has the first question, but I can go in here, edit question.
And I wanted to make that a radio box. You know, we can collect multiple ones as opposed to just pick one. So we can
Sure.
change that to a multi-box.
We can.
Perfect. Now people can pick Mark Pincus and Mark Cuban.
Yes.
Great. And I guess you can save that there. Is there anything else we need to see on that screen?
It's really as simple as that.
You can randomize the order, right, too?
You can.
Because that's kind of important so you don't get like people picking the first one because it's the first one they read.
Right. There's a question randomization or page randomization.
Very cool. So now, and also the response is randomized as well.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I see over there they have a new feature on the top left. What is that?
The question bank. So the question bank is an awesome tool if you aren't quite sure on how you want to word something. This has ideas written by survey experts, so you can make sure you get the most accurate data.
So if I wanted to know like gender or race or where you lived or income, those are like, people have thought about how to ask those questions perfectly.
Exactly.
So I guess if we were doing a survey for advertisers on the This Week in Network, we could click there and find something related to income?
You could.
Okay, let's show me how that works.
There's a market research option. Let's select that. So, this is for products. So let's say demographic.
Demographic,
Let's click
sure.
demographic. Are you male or female? Which category below includes your age? All worded in a very precise way, so you're making sure you're not swaying the
So you
answers.
could add like 3 or 4 of those maybe?
Yeah.
You just click add and it adds it, that's
It's
it?
as simple as
Oh,
that.
so add a couple more.
All right, so
Wow,
let's
so
say...
you don't even have to think of the questions anymore.
No.
When did they add that feature? That's awesome. I
It's
didn't even
new.
know they had that.
Very new.
Wow. So you can construct a survey with the meticulousness of professional surveyors in seconds.
Absolutely.
Wow, it sounds like a commercial. Okay, you are doing a commercial. But actually, it's a really cool feature. I never really thought about that. So now you've added about 5 or 10 questions there. And how do we get responses?
So whenever you're finished, when you're satisfied with how everything reads,
sure.
You can preview your survey.
Oh, that's nice.
You
There
can
it is.
see
Oh, and when you
exactly.
pick that design, that had our logo on the top left. So you designed that once.
And then you can copy it across all.
You know what I hate is when you finish the survey and then it dumps you back to a promotion for the company that did it. Now, when you have a pro account, you can send them somewhere else, right?
You can send them to any URL you'd like.
Any URL, or can you send them to the results too? I think
You
you
can.
can.
You
So
can display.
You can share the results or not share the results.
Correct.
That's what I like sharing the results because that's like the reward for taking a survey. I hate when people ask me to take a survey and then they don't do it. So there's many more features,
There are.
but you basically get a URL where you can post it to your Facebook. Tons of different ways to actually collect responses. Too many for us to go through, but there you have it, folks. I mean, you can create a survey in literally seconds to minutes, and you can do it all for, I don't know, it's like $20 a month. ridiculously affordable. SurveyMonkey is one of the fine products that I've been using for years. And on This Week in Startups, we only allow people who have products that we actually use and love. Why? I don't want you buying this thing and then telling me you don't like it. I know you're going to love it. It is the best product, value for dollar, pound for pound. It's super affordable, and they keep adding features. You saw that question bank. I never even knew that existed. And you know what? You know how much they raised your price for having that and adding that feature? 0. That's the awesomeness of software as a service. It's not like these other programs where you download software and then it crashes your computer. This is all in the cloud. You log in, you use it, and every couple of weeks, every couple of days, every couple of months, new features just blossom and come out of the product. It's an amazing product. Carolyn, thank you for showing it.
Absolutely, thank you.
And thank you for all the hard work on the show, by the way. You've been delightful to work with. You really
you.
are. I love when I find like a person like you or Tyler or Kieran. Like, this is my greatest crew. My greatest joy in life is when I find somebody who's just hardworking and gets stuff done.
It's all about having a boss that challenges you.
Really?
It really is.
You should find one. Hey, there. Am I challenging boss?
Yes, but in
Yeah.
a great way, in
But
a way
you-
that makes me want to exceed your very high expectations.
And you've grown so much. You've been here
Thank
for how
you.
long? 6 months?
9.
9 months. Wow.
Yeah.
It seems like only yesterday when you started. You've done an amazing job. I'm really fond of you and the
Thank
job
you.
you've done. And I'm really fond of SurveyMonkey and these tools. You know, you have the right tools. Everything gets a little bit easier.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, SurveyMonkey. Thank you, Carolyn. And thank you guys for tuning into This Week in Startups. So, does a leader have to have had multiple previous successes in order for people to believe in them enough for them to be considered a leader? And is this sort of the paradox of it? Like, people are looking for leaders with a track record, but if I'm a young entrepreneur, if I'm starting something, how do I the chicken and egg there? How do I prove my leadership if I don't have a track record?
Yeah, that's I think the passion they show, first of all, they got to raise dough, I assume.
Right, sure.
If you're talking about you're Rockefeller, some rich guy's child, or you're an heir to a huge fortune, questions irrelevant.
Right.
But you need backing.
Right.
Backing. So in a way, it's like inspired followers, isn't it?
Right.
You've got to have an idea, and you got to show what that idea will do. See, let's do a little role playing.
Yeah.
Okay. And and I've looked at you just got an MBA, let's say, and you have no work experience, no foundation on which. See, you're not an authority.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going I'm going to interview you.
Right.
Okay. Why do you think I should put? You're looking for money. Let's get that on the table.
Right.
Why should I? Who are your customers?
My customers are adults who are looking to continue their education and own iPads and want to buy educational materials on iPads.
Oh. So, and it's an easy way of doing it?
It's the most affordable, instantaneous, and best way to learn.
Oh, and I'm a customer of yours now, and give me an example of how I'm going to find that useful to buy. I'm a very busy guy, and I don't want to, this is going to be, I'm going to be through this interview in about 30 seconds maybe.
Yeah, if you want to go buy a book or a DVD series and spend $150, and wait 3 days for it to show up, you could do that. Or you could click a button on your iPad right now and get the same quality materials for $2 instantly.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so what you've done is made an idea which somehow has resonance not only for me personally, but also for a wide group of people, I think. And by the way, it's so interesting you use that as an example because about 2 weeks ago, in a column in the New York Times by Tom Friedman, there was a marvelous story. He was visiting India, Rajasthan, and there was a new school of engineering. I forget the dean's name, but the Indian government asked him to send out a proposal, which he agreed to take, which was in a communication business, they call it the last call, which means connecting everybody.
Right.
Okay. He's calling it the last person. And it is a tablet, like an iPad, which costs only $2.50 with government support.
Right.
Now, that's an idea that has such a funk. It's such a powerful resonance for me because I could see $2.50. It means everybody in India can be.
The Indian government is subsidizing this. Yeah.
Yeah,
it costs maybe $25 or $35 to make, but they're giving it away for nothing. Incredible.
And I was wondering because our business school, USC, Marshall School, and this is not a plug necessarily, it could be,
Yeah.
but it isn't meant as a plug. I'm helping the dean and others figure out what is it that makes, because we're kicking off a $500 million campaign on March 8. Okay?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to help do something equivalent to what that Indian dean did, something that, what can a business school do that would really make the kind of resonance, that idea of getting this for $250 for all of the poor people in India who will be
Right.
connected and who are not now.
Right.
I don't mean just to do gooder thing. They're doing well by the, I mean, they're doing good and doing well both, which
Right.
entrepreneurs do.
Right. So, with leadership,
Yeah.
you have young people trying to be leaders, starting companies. What is it? Is it something that can be, in fact, trained and taught? You teach leadership, so obviously you must believe on some level it can be taught. Well, what is the lesson?
Yeah, I want to correct, I don't
Yeah.
say that.
You
It
know,
can be learned.
It can be learned.
And in the class I've been teaching for 15 years with USC's, he just retired, resigned, not retired, oh, that's a bad word,
Yeah.
retired. And this is our 15th year.
Right.
We just finished our 15th year this fall semester. And I think we create in a course, Jason, experiences from both experiences in the class and through guest lecturers. I'm going to get you next year.
Sure.
I'm serious.
Of course.
Because the most impressive speaker this year were two who talked about entrepreneurialism
Right.
for this group.
Right.
These are the best and brightest. 400 people apply. We accept 40.
Wow.
Believe it or not. So it's a totemic course on campus now.
Right.
Getting in that course. So, you know, where am I going with this? I think the first thing is you've got to do what you just did with me. You've got to really show that the idea, somehow that the very word leader means you've got to create an idea that it relates to that quote by Shakespeare of Hotspur saying, you know, will they come when you call them?
Right.
And the power of an entrepreneur, any leader, is the power of an idea that will draw people to that person, and it also has to do with the capacity to make it something that is understood and has resonance, and provides. This is all cliche-ish, but has to provide meaning.
Right.
And how do you get people who are just plugging in bolts into an automobile? How do you get people? I was asking the makeup person.
Yeah.
What do you get out of this? What is it?
Yeah.
What makes you? What got you started this? Well, she said, I'm helping making people. Somehow they will be on camera more interesting and appealing by removing anything that could get in the way. Let's say,
yes.
Why should you go on screen with something you can actually control without making, with some makeup that would hide some things that you don't want to be shown? Why put people off with something that you can deal with?
Right. So get that stuff out of the way. So finding meaning
Getting
and purpose.
Meaning, yeah, and purpose, exactly.
Right.
And people who do that well, see, here's the issue. There are so many things that go into it. There are some, for example, leaders I've known, including a number of entrepreneurs, who aren't particularly articulate as you are about these things, but they have a manner which somehow does another thing. There's a kind of a trust, that a bond that is developed through some sense of being reliable, being constant, and I think that in a way, the question you raised is very interesting because you're talking about a person who's not built that foundation.
Right.
See, I can talk, the word authority, the root of the word is author. And in a way, what's marvelous about entrepreneurs is that they really are authors of their own lives. They're not getting into, what a beautiful opportunity that is.
Right.
Imagine that. That moment that when you really are, as an author, you've not written your first book? Is that
No,
true?
no.
That wasn't meant to be an embarrassing question because we
Yeah.
talked about it before the program started.
Yeah.
That's what you intend to do.
At some point, yes.
Yeah, at some point.
I'll
Okay.
write a book when I feel I have enough cumulative experience to make it worth
Well,
reading.
I'm going to pin you down in 2012, which you sort of said as an
2012
aside.
is my goal to
Okay,
start.
never mind that.
Yeah.
But this
But idea to be steady
Yeah.
and be this constant, it's a key to leadership, isn't it? Like, they have to feel like you are going to follow through and
Yes.
consistently deliver even when things look shaky.
You know that old Woody Allen line?
No.
Was it 80%, 90% of success is showing up?
Right.
Isn't that sort of the metaphor for what we're talking about?
Yeah. But you have to not only show up, you have to show up and in some way exude a confidence or steadfastness that it's all going to be okay.
Oh, yeah, I love that. I love that because one of the things I talk to my students about is a leader is not given the opportunity to say, I don't feel like it. You're on, man. I'm
You can't
here
take a
today.
day off.
I'm not telling you about, oh my God, am I busted? I'm
No
here.
excuses.
I'm here, and if I'm a pro, I'm going to be with you in the moment, Jason.
Right.
And I don't want to tell you about the cold I had last night or the fact that I broke up with none of that is just,
BS.
yes, thank you.
Right.
Leader does not, you're not allowed to say, I don't feel like it. You're showing up.
Right.
And I bet you if you look at the actors, just take one example, or actresses, I'm sure that there are people, I'm thinking about, who am I thinking of? Bob, a lot of actors come to my mind, but Carl Malden comes to my mind. I mean, he's old now. I mean, probably still, I'm not sure he's even still with us, but I'm thinking about people who get role after role after role.
Sure.
Because they're dependable. They will show up, they will turn in a good job.
Right.
And they're on for you. And they don't come in with excuses about, oh, I don't feel,
Right. They're just going to get the job done.
Yeah.
Now, how does a leader show up every day, do that, when in fact, at any given point in time, you may say, I don't actually think this is going to go so well. Like, all right, you're dropped behind enemy lines. You were in World War II. Sometimes you might think going up that hill is not going to end well, but I've got to fake it. I've got to show a steadfastness, like it's all going to be okay. Don't worry, guys. We're gonna get through this. The outcome will be okay.
Okay, here, let me tell you that one of the few real principles I think the primary task of any leader, let's stay with the climbing, let's take any situation, including infantry taking a hill.
Right.
The first primary task of a leader is to define reality.
Define reality.
Yeah. And that means being very clear-headed about what we're up to face. Now, actually, if you really feel this is that you've been ordered, let's say you've been ordered by the regimental, by the company commander, I'm a platoon leader, and it's a platoon leader who leads, it's two platoons that lead the charge. And you've been ordered, you're in the Army. This is not like, in a corporation, it may be,
there could be a little pushback.
This is wartime, so you can't say, well, I don't know if I agree. It's not a time for
debate,
dissent at that moment. Later on, you can talk, complain about it. But so you've got to say, guys, this is going to be a rough one, and we're going to do our best, and we've got a good battle plan, and here are the issues. You're going to have these are snipers over in that church steeple. You got to define. This is true of any institution you're leading. Now, it doesn't mean you sound hopeless, because I remember when I was in my third year as university president, the chairman of the board took me aside after a board meeting. He said, Warren, look, we're not paying you to look gloomy and in despair. It doesn't mean, he wasn't saying fake it. Don't you get it? The difference between, I don't think I'm saying fake it. I'm saying the opposite. Define reality, but you got to also talk about there's no terrific leader I've met who isn't optimistic by outlook, but is at the same time enough paranoid to know when there are just so-called disruptive inflection points out there that you can't see.
Right.
We're all surprised by that sort of. But we've got to help define reality and then get people aligned behind that.
So here are the facts. I am optimistic we're going to get through this.
Yeah.
But I am not delusional
Exactly.
So
Yes.
But some people say to be an entrepreneur, you have to be delusional to a certain extent because you're taking on challenges that are insurmountable in some ways.
Right, but there's a difference between being reckless and delusional and being bold and being the first out there. That distinction is very important, Jason.
Right.
Because when I'm talking, and by the way, it takes time because how do you know? But reckless and not taking into account. Look, here's my decision rule about judgment. We haven't talked about yet, but it's the key. It's the DNA of leadership. Over the long, not any one little judgment, but although sometimes you make a mistake as a manager of a baseball team and you'll never forget the fact that you didn't pull that pitcher after he did 100 pitches and you should have pulled him.
Right.
You know, we all know that story. It was
Right.
Grady who then, you know, blah, blah. But basically, here I have a rule, and I don't have that many. It's an 80% rule. If you're 80% sure of the facts, you've done all you can do to get as much knowledge as you can about this challenge or that product or that idea. And 80% of your gut says, go with it.
Right.
And you're going to screw up, too.
Right. There's a chance it will be the 20%.
Yeah.
There's a chance you're going to leave the pitcher in
but
too long.
Look how much you learned.
Right.
That's, you know, and this is, I think, the problem for any leader, maybe especially for an entrepreneur, Jason.
Yeah.
And because I think you really have to you can say delusional. I'd rather think of bold and risk-prone and being able to, but at least you've done the homework.
Right.
It's by the way, it's the same as anything. Getting married or having a child or
there's risk to it,
all
but
of
you're
that.
using your judgment, assessing the risk constantly, and being. And you were a pioneer in transparency, being transparent with the people who you are leading to say, here is the judgment I'm making, and here is the information I made it from, and this is the outcome I think will happen, and let's assess that after it happens too.
Yeah, and if we're in this together, if we have all of us have skin in the game,
right.
I wonder where that phrase came. It sounds like a gambling phrase. It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's having, you know, it's your skin in the game. I don't know how else to put it.
Right.
And for an example, as an entrepreneur raising money, the investors really have to feel skin in the game too. That's part of what I think an entrepreneur must have, that capacity to be able to, to be seductive and serious, both. And
so we're going to execute in a very serious, deliberate, intentional manner, but we're also going to dream big, and we're going to be aspirational and bold.
Right. Yes, and I think there has to be. And this I'm basing on data, not just talking about only what Warren Bennis thinks, but most studies of leadership, even ones more recently where they use the MRI, the functional magnet, and they're learning that that there's a certain degree of risk and among leaders. And let me put this, they call it in the literature hardiness, Hardiness.
Hardiness.
Hardiness, but it sounds like hardiness, and it's not too wrong. But hardiness really means, in a nutshell, the expectation of success. That you go into a thing, because you can't really leave. You think, well, this is, I mean, no successful leader.
Pessimists can't be leaders.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to figure out I was once going to take a difficult job. It looked like, oh my God, it's the Augean stables. There's just too much crap I have to clean up. And the guy who was trying to recruit me said, here's a question for you, Warren. Is the climb worth the view? That is it worth it to your time to take on that job? You got to think about that, he said to me. I thought it was a beautiful question.
Right.
You know, because with entrepreneurs, you got to ask yourself, I guess, that question a lot.
Yeah. Am I going to take 5-10 years of my life to try to solve this problem?
Yeah.
And then if I do solve it, is it going to have been worth it?
Yeah, and is my timing going to be all right? And all those factors, that's where the boldness comes in.
Right.
That's where you don't throw caution to the winds fully, but you're enough paranoid about the possibilities of, so you're not going to go into this, you never, do you ever know for us? I mean, I've not done entrepreneur in the sense of a product I can put out to people.
Well, the book is a product.
Well, the book is sort of a product.
It can rise and fall, and there's going to be risk. People can hate it, not buy it.
Yeah, that's true, all that. But I always think there's a difference in a way between...
It's mitigated.
Yeah. I have great admiration for the
Let's talk
product.
about flaws in leaders.
About
flaws.
Flaws.
Yes. I mean,
Ooh.
so many of our leaders and great leaders who have done tremendous jobs leading have been deeply flawed individuals or have had moments of just massive transgression.
Yeah.
Is it?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
All these questions are terrific because that's why leadership is so fascinating to me. Because it's always a subtlety, but it's also regularly contested, and it's also not it's not the last word that's going to happen on. I'm going to give you the last word on leadership, Jason.
Right. No. It's
I believe
obviously
that. Okay.
art and science, and you've attacked both.
Okay,
but
flaws. Okay.
Are flaws a positive in a leader?
Yeah,
do people like flawed leaders better than they like the perfect person?
Yeah. I think of some leaders I know and I've interviewed who are, I would say, real SOBs, tyrants. And by God, they contradict everything I've written about. But here's what's interesting about them. I'm thinking about a chef of a chain of terrific restaurants.
Okay.
He is a pain in the butt, to say the least. But people love working with this person, learning from him, because he is changing the way we eat. He is changing, and he's such a perfectionist, and he learns so much from it, and they're emboldened by really going after the holy. They know working with this person is worth it, and they're going to do and they feel almost blessed to be able to learn from this son of a bitch. So
you could be a colossal jerk, push people, but if the product comes out well, Steve Jobs is the example.
And I've seen other examples like Steve.
Right.
I've known symphony conductors
right.
who have been really difficult.
Right.
But people know.
Right.
In fact, the thing they said about a guy who was really a tyrant, he said, I said, what do you get from it? He said, well, first of all, he's a real pro. He never wastes our time. And for creative people, that phrase, it sounded to me banal. So what is that? It doesn't waste our time. That sounds trivial. But they are holding that orchestra to such a high standard. And they know they're with someone who's really got the quality to bring out the best of them, though, despite the fact that he's someone they don't particularly like.
Right.
So, but for the, but for the most part, most of the exemplary leaders in corporate situations who are CEOs usually abdicate to a certain extent their ego to the talents of others, because in these days, the entrepreneur has to really build a team.
Yeah.
Has to in a way, maybe difficult, but collaborate with others. And if he can't do that, he's probably smart enough to know to bring in as a CEO someone who has those gifts.
And that's changed in business, hasn't it? The problems are becoming more complex. Things are becoming more collaborative. It's not like one person can just will something into being. They need to have a team around them.
Right.
And you can't be a tyrant jerk
completely
and maintain a team. You can be a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, but
you can be demanding at times.
Right, I agree.
There's some sort of breaking point.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I don't know what the breaking point is, Jason, but I'll tell you. Look at the C words that have. When I wanted to write, when I wrote a book called Leaders, came out in 1985. The publisher, I wanted to call it CEO, and at that time, CEO, the publisher said, it was Harper Collins maybe, said no one would know what that means. This was like 1980. Book came out in 85.
People wouldn't know what a chief executive officer was.
At that time, CEO would not go down. Look at the C words today.
CFO, CMO, CIO, CTO.
Chief Spiritual Officer, Chief Wisdom Officer, Chief Security, don't joke.
Yeah.
Chief Security Officer.
Yeah. Knowledge officer.
Yeah. So it is no organization, none of us, as the Japanese saying goes, none of us is as smart of all of us. And in many of the situations facing the job, another job, primary job, is to how do you get that group to be interdependent enough to really work together on, because they're so complex nowadays.
Right.
So many issues.
And how do you do that? How do you get 5 great leaders to become a great team?
Mm-hmm. That raises that's an interesting question, but are leaders generally not good followers?
No, that's
Because there's like entrepreneurs.
No, that's
oftentimes they're
no,
not. They become entrepreneurs because they can't work with anybody else.
You know what? I think they have been good followers. I think they've been good followers because that's how they got ahead. I mean, the thing we haven't mentioned yet, it has to do not with technology, but with the capacity to engage others. And if you're a leader of a team of leaders, well, there are two questions at once. Most of the leaders I've studied, by the way, and I choose to begin with a biased sample of people who've been successful.
Right.
Can I look over this way?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
People have been successful, and so they know how to be a good. I don't think the qualities. I've written about this. The qualities of followership are not that much different from leadership. I mean, there's one big difference is the buck does stop ultimately. You do. I mean, for the most part, even in Occupy Wall Street, there even though it's a very diffuse, not clear set of goals, but they're no sharpening. Even there, you do need a team. Really, I can't imagine, except for an individual startup, which, if it's any good, will require a group of people to work with.
Right.
And so about followership, I think the qualities that made you a good follower are what lead you to get chosen for positions of good leadership. I'm not joking; they are very much related. The difference is that when you're the leader, you are also the one who has to make the final cut, and you have to make the decisions about that are very important. But not to gather any information as leader from the others who might. I mean, you know that some leaders get too many of them live for too long in a kind of a bubble themselves and they're not really hearing the customer directly.
Right.
And with people, I want to.
The internet has certainly changed that.
Say that again?
The internet has certainly changed
Exactly.
that. Right, yeah.
I knew a guy named Bob Townsend. I suppose you've never heard of him. He took over, he was a finance guy to begin with, and he took over Avis, and he had an advertising mind, and we're number 2, but trying, remember?
Right.
Avis, I'm not sure they use that anymore. They
Yeah.
may, in fact, they still do, probably.
I don't know if they do, but I remember it.
Remember that? Okay,
distinctly.
Bob Townsend was the guy who employed that particular advertising agency. I forget, a big one in New
Well, yeah,
York.
we're number 2, but we try harder.
We try harder.
Right.
Okay, and Bob, before all the time he was CEO, and he wrote a great book called Up the Organization. Really rebellious. You know, I keep thinking my middle finger when I think of that title. And he's a real maverick, and brilliant, and a great. But he would actually spend a lot of time every week visiting one or two of these Avis at airports or wherever they hotels. He would actually put on the jacket and work with them. It was like what Falstaff, the first executive coach, told Prince Hal. He said, if you want to lead people, you've got to enter their world. Isn't that brilliant?
Yeah.
And I mean, this guy Shakespeare really, he wouldn't get tenure today in a university, but boy, I think he was pretty.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, this is where in the 80s, the sort of separation of the team who was building and the leadership team, you know, different floors, different buildings, you know, isolation.
Right.
This led them to not be respected, and this distance from the product and from the rank and file.
Yeah. Because again, there's a scene in the same play again where where Prince Hal takes off the robes of a prince and puts on what the soldiers are wearing in the front lines, and listens to them.
Right.
Isn't that? I mean, that's exactly what Bob Townsend was doing, without reading Henry IV Part 1. That's the point. I'm using Shakespeare very accurately here as someone, not to show off with literature, but what he was saying. Bob Townsend was doing to build Avis.
So if you're not with your troops,
customer,
if you're not with your troops, you're not with the customer, you're just not going to win. You're not going to be a great leader. It's not possible to lead from way up on the mountain. You've got to be on the front line.
Well, there are occasional exceptions again. That's what makes it. Roberto Goizueta, who for years led Coca-Cola very successfully. Okay, he was a very austere Cuban, came to this country, very austere, meaning rather princely in his manner, very
regal.
Patrician, regal.
Yeah,
a marvelous guy, by the way.
Yeah.
But his number 2 was a guy named Don Keogh, Keogh, a Boston, Irish Catholic Bostonian.
Hard guy.
And he was the CEO, and the two of them together were brilliant together.
Right.
Because Keogh kept the bond of, people loved Keogh, and for good reason. He was not just a backslapper, but he really was a guy with a feel for people. And Roberto knew that wasn't his.
Right.
He knew what he was good at.
Right. He had that weakness, and he filled it.
Yeah, he knew that he needed a Don Keogh at his side.
Right.
It was like Moses and Aaron. I can't resist this. It's a story that comes up more and often. God kept telling Moses, look, Moses, you got to tell the Pharaoh the truth. You got to say, let my people go.
Right.
And Moses stuttered. Did you know that? He was very insecure, really.
Right.
Strange to say.
Yeah.
So God finally was losing his patience. And he said, Moses, look, you got to finally, I've been telling you this. Go to the Pharaoh, but look, this time bring Aaron with you. Aaron is smart brother, very articulate. Bring Aaron, just having the other. So now this is, I'm going to challenge the whole idea of entrepreneurialism with this one.
Right.
It is not a solo job only.
Right.
It's ultimately...
People perceive it as such, though.
They do.
Right, but it's an absolute mistake.
My son is an entrepreneur, and this is the symbol he brought back from Prague, where he's now setting up co-office space.
Right.
That kind of thing. And it's working alone sucks. That's the
logo.
But even entrepreneurs really need a partner usually, or someone that, I don't know. You probably know. You would know perhaps more. I needed co-authors.
Right.
And I think some of my best. I don't think my best book. This is my narcissism coming out. But a lot of my books are co-authored. If you're honest, yeah. So but for an entrepreneur to start something, I think there's got to be someone. Even though it is that person's brainchild and all that, I still think there's some need. I'm not sure whether your viewers would agree with that or not, but
it appears to be a solo endeavor, but in fact it is all about, can you get the most out of the people who work with you? Can you get inside their heads? Can you inspire them? Can you make them put that extra hour in where somebody else
You know why I'm
can't?
laughing? I should interview you.
No.
Anyway, but I do think it's important to get that possibly controversial point. I think it takes two. It takes two to tango. I think it takes two to build something. I really feel that.
Yeah.
A child, for example, forget about that even. Even a gay marriage, it takes two.
Right.
Even if they don't have the kid, it's like that. And I think relationship, what we haven't yet discussed, which I'm going to bring in now, and I don't know to what extent, I think it's so important in everything. I think to be open about myself for a moment, really open about my own career.
Right.
I think it was based on, I had a certain floor of intelligence. I think I have a lot of creativity, but I think my leading card, my trump card, my whole card, my main strength is my capacity to engage others. That sounds very simple, engage others.
Right.
So we've talked about defining reality.
Right.
But I think engaging others.
Getting them to open up, getting them to talk.
Yeah.
Getting them to tell their story.
Creating the social architecture
Right.
that would allow people to be candid,
Right.
be creative. That's where, as all those things get into leadership, all those things, I'm really writing a little article right now, defining reality, engaging others in that dream,
Right.
and working together to the problem. But the idea may come from one person's head, but it's not going to. Will it be birthed?
Right.
Without help from others and all that.
Yeah. So the dream certainly becomes a reality when you can build a team to manifest it. But we've seen a tremendous lack of leadership in this country, and even around the world recently, whether it's the financial crisis. Is this a lack of leadership? Bush as president, putting politics aside, but lying to send us to war and some other things that have occurred. Are we faced with a lack of leadership? Are we can't seem to get presidential candidates who are inspiring? Obama aside. And are we facing a lack of leadership or a lack of ethics and morals? Well, where's the state of leadership today in the world? Because it seems like, is it just that the problems are so complex that They have transcended the ability of individuals to solve them?
Yeah, I love.
Why is it so disappointing?
This conversation, I really love. And say, think of right now, European Union. Think of all of the so-called industrialized democracies like the U.S., Canada.
Sure.
There's not one leader who seems to be either seeming to lead, who isn't in trouble. Not one that I can name. You name one leader, and he's, you know.
In
the
Europe,
best you can do. I was asked recently to respond to this question. It's going to be in. It's in the Washington Post today, I think. Who is name your leader of the year for the year 2011? I mentioned, but you know who Tom Peters is? He's a good friend. He wrote a book called In Search of Excellence in 1982, became famous. It was the first big blockbuster business book, In Search of Excellence. He's a very close friend.
Right.
And he was just with, and we both named the same person, Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany.
Yeah, she
now,
is really, she is pushing to resolve these issues.
I didn't talk about, Tom was just here last week.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about this, because we only were, he was asked by the Washington Post. There were a few leadership authorities, gurus, they call us.
Yeah.
And we both responded to Angela Merkel.
Why?
I got to
Why?
write him today to talk about the coincidence of this. But I don't, and she's in trouble. I mean, she's forcing a lot of things that are going to make her re-electable. Who knows? Look at it. I mean, they're trying to save Italy's butt right now.
Right.
And they've already done the best they could with
Well,
Greece.
talking about, you know, assessing
is there
the
a leader
situation.
in the world, to back up your question, I don't know of a leader in the world, and we don't know enough about China, about the repressive nations that you just don't know about.
Right. Who's the
I
leader
don't know
there?
of any
Nobody
leader
knows who's
in
in
the so-called industrialized democratic world that seems to be in good shape right now. None. Now, is it that we just did someone not train them out? No. The conditions are such, Jason, and this is I want to make this very clear. I used to write about truth to power.
Right.
Speaking truth to power, very important. That kind of now the question is, how does a leader, if he knows the facts, the reality of the economic situation for, let's say, the next 10 years, and they look, let's say, bleak as I think they are, we're going to have to, I mean, I'm not worried. We're going to be okay, but we're still not going to go at the rate of change in terms of GDP.
Right.
The middle class is in real trouble right now, and those kids in the park have a real issue. That they're the 99%.
Right.
Well, disparity is now becoming increasingly clear.
Right.
So the situation is very difficult.
But truth
right
to power. Keep
now.
going on
Now
that.
the question now is, how does power speak to the people of truth?
Right.
Because that's what they're still skirting.
And if you tell them the truth,
will they be reelected?
Right, because it's so ugly, the truth,
Yeah.
that taking the medicine is going to be really difficult.
It's going to be the courageous leader, and people are going to love. Let me tell you, and there are data on this too. People want to hear the truth, even bad, even the bad truth, rather than be.
But they won't do it. They just look at the short-term polls, and Obama says, "Oh, if I take this position, I'm not going to get reelected." And it seems like all Obama wants to do is get reelected. He doesn't want to.
They're not going to be
tell
reelected.
the truth.
Yeah, but you know, you're exactly the way that. But let's just advance even for 8 years. That's 8 years from now. Not telling the truth, because the results are not going to be any good. Let's stay with that scenario for a moment.
Right.
So you only got to do it in your second term because you're not reelectable.
You
anyways.
can't tell the truth in the first term.
Right.
Yeah, you see, that's what. So you learn that that not telling the truth is not going to get you reelected, because the results aren't going to. People are going to really see that I need a job. So the main thing I tried to encourage my business school dean to really speak to, that we're going to beef up our career placement at the Marshall School.
Right.
That's a very specific thing.
Right.
You know,
So to take on head on, hey, you're paying a lot for this the big issue in higher education is you're spending a lot on this, and you may not be able to pay it back.
And you've got to help people.
And you got to take that
so
head
you're
on.
going to give them you're going to define reality, but yet tell them, here's what we're going to do.
Right.
To do our best about that issue.
Right.
But you see what I'm getting at? It's a subtle.
Right. Well, in higher education, they've sort of been in denial about this. The
yeah.
prices keep going up, but the job opportunities keep going down,
Yeah,
and
by the way-
nobody will say anything and say to these kids, hey, are you sure you want to put yourself in $100,000 in debt?
Exactly.
Because you may not have a job when you come out.
Exactly that. Yeah. So anyway,
Scary to tell the
thing about
truth.
faking reality these days. How can you fake it? I mean, because on the TV there's going to be a split screen. Here's Dr. Bennis talking about we're doing our best we can, be vague about jobs, but nothing specific.
Right.
This is why Obama has really failed. He is. himself very, academic, and he doesn't get to people's. You know what it is in a nutshell? No sound bites.
No sound bites.
No sound bites. Reagan had sound bites.
Right.
Roosevelt had sound bites. Churchill had sound bites. Leaders have something that hits the in a Yiddish word I'm blocking on the word, but it's called in the gut. I forget the word actually.
Right.
What is Yiddish word that hits you in the kishkas?
Resonance.
Yeah, kishkas. That's what it is.
Kishkas,
Yeah. Well, that's a sound bite. It really hits you in the gut.
Right.
And he hasn't yet.
He hasn't been able to articulate.
And I want him, and I'm still rooting for him.
Yes, we can was, and then that's kind of
Well,
what
it did
led to
seem
his-
like he was so good pre-election at
But you-
inspiring people and defining the reality, and then he got in.
Running. He was a
The
great
yes,
candidate.
but yes, we can was his big soundbite.
And
Right.
Yeah.
And he voted against the wars,
Yeah.
and then he got in, and it just seemed like that person disappeared.
Yeah, and there's a guy named Jonathan Alter. He used to write for Newsweek. He's a good writer. He wrote a biography of. He really admired. He was the one that tipped me off about the no sound bites, though.
Right.
And Alter he's a really good writer. He's no longer with Newsweek, but he's writing something right now. I know. And he was the one to point out about. He said his speeches are so elegant. You read his speeches, Obama,
Right.
and you say, "Wow, these are the best speeches I've ever." But then you realize there was no sound bite.
Nothing, no takeaway. There's nothing that will sit with you and last that you say, I can.
I know that word
It's
I used to hate when I was on the speaker circuit. What's your takeaway, Dr. Bennis? I said, what's your deliverable? Because you're so right. You know,
People
I had to
want
think
that.
about,
Yeah.
this. I don't like the 7 steps to or the 4 things that will, but you need to give some sense of, like, I'm not going to say, oh boy, jobs are going to be